Welcome back, everyone, to DA Sports. I'm your host, DASASIN. Thank you. This is episode number 8. Today, we're going to get into a few things. We're going to talk briefly about the MLB playoffs. We are now into the division series. So that's the ALDS and the NLDS. We'll briefly go over my predictions for both. We will also talk about UFC 307. And then lastly, we will finish up with my NFL Sunday picks. So let's get into it. Okay, so for starters, we are going to get into the MLB playoffs. That's Major League Baseball. So the wild card round has ended. Unfortunately, my Braves did not make it past the wild card round. I did say that was going to happen, though, so I'm not too upset. It is what I expected, even though that's my favorite team. But we do have some really good matchups coming up in the ALDS and NLDS. So I'm going to briefly go over each matchup and my predictions for this round. So to start, we are going to start with the ALDS. Now, the first matchup in the ALDS that I'm going to mention is the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians. For those that don't know, the division series are the best of 5. In this particular series, I'm actually taking Detroit. That's right, the Detroit Tigers in an upset. I do believe that they're going to be able to win this series in 5 games. I just think they have all the momentum. Just about a month or two ago, they were projected to not even make the playoffs. Now, not only have they made the playoffs, but won their wild card matchup. And so now they're carrying that momentum. And a lot of times we see in sports that when it comes to playoff times, it's all about who's hot. It's all about who has the momentum at the right time. And Detroit is definitely the team with the most momentum right now. So I think they'll be able to carry that over into this series and come out with the win in 5 games. Now, the next ALDS series that I'm going to talk about is the New York Yankees and the Kansas City Royals. Now, this one I think is also going to go down to 5 games. I do think it's going to be closer than most people expect, but I do think the Yankees will pull it out and win in 5 games. I think ultimately they just have too much power. All of their bats have been hitting pretty consistently throughout the season, which is why they finished with one of the best records in the league. And I think they'll be able to hold off the Royals, who have picked it up lately. But I still think the Yankees just have a little too much power for them, and they'll win in 5 games to face the Detroit Tigers. So now on to the NLDS. So the 2 National League Series games. To start, I'm going to go with the Phillies and the Mets. Now, as a Braves fan, these are both division rivals. So, yes, I do have to pick one, and I'm going to pick the Phillies. I do believe that their home crowd is really going to propel them. They arguably have the best home field advantage out of any of the teams in Major League Baseball, especially when it comes to playoff games. They are known to get pretty crazy. I think this is definitely going to be the case again. They had time to rest a little bit since they had the bye, and they've looked like one of the best teams all season, and I think that's going to show itself in this matchup against the Mets. And all the bandwagon Mets fans are going to get their bubble burst, and they are going to lose. I do believe the Phillies will beat the Mets in 4 games. And then as far as the last NLDS series, the most popular series out of the 4, in my opinion, is the San Diego Padres and the LA Dodgers. Now, this is a rivalry game, a rivalry matchup, rivalry series. Both teams have gone back and forth. Obviously, the Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani. He should easily win the MVP for this year, going 50-50, which has never been done in MLB history. I do think this series is going to go 5 games. However, I actually think that the Padres will pull off the upset and beat the Dodgers in 5 games. I know a lot of my friends and family don't want to hear that. Of course, most of my friends and family are Dodgers fans, but just based on what I've seen the energy that I feel like is behind the Padres right now. I feel like they're destined to get revenge against their hated rival in the Dodgers. And even though the Dodgers actually won the division this year, I do feel like the Padres will carry their momentum from the wild card series into this series and pull off the win against the Dodgers in 5 games. So, just to recap for these 4 series in the ALDS and the NLDS, again, I'm going with the Tigers, the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Padres to advance to the ALCS and NLCS. So we'll check back in a few episodes or so, see how that pans out. Now, also what's going on this Saturday night, we have another big UFC event. That is UFC 307. So as I did with the previous UFC matchup, I'm going to give you 2 fighters that I believe that you should check in on their fights that are in the prelims. And then I'm going to give you my predictions on 3 of the main fights on the main card. Okay, so for starters, the first prelim matchup that I'm picking is between Tisha Pennington and Carla Esparza. Now, right now, Tisha Pennington is favored to win. She's a minus 185 favorite. Now, for those that don't know, Tisha Pennington is the wife of Raquel Pennington, who is the current champion at the 135 weight class. And she's actually fighting on the main card later in this same fight. So, first time ever, I believe, that 2 spouses are fighting on the same card. So definitely going to be interesting. They're often in each other's corners, but this time they're actually fighting on the same event, so that's really cool. Carla Esparza, she's a very wrestler-heavy background. She was once the title holder at 115. Actually, twice she was a title holder at 115. She is a great wrestler. In this fight, I'm actually going to pick Tisha Pennington to get the win. Tisha is a very aggressive stand-up fighter. Both fighters are very seasoned. But I think that Tisha's explosiveness will be able to keep Carla away from getting a double leg and trying to take her down. Carla Esparza, even though she's a great wrestler, in my opinion, she's a very boring fighter. If she were to win the fight, it would happen with her basically taking Tisha down and controlling her on the ground for at least 2 of the 3 rounds. I think Tisha will be able to hold her off and not allow her to do that. She does have the benefit of being able to train with her wife, Raquel, who is really good at stopping takedowns. So them training at the same time should be able to help both of them. And I think Tisha will pull off the win. That is one of the prelim fights that you definitely should check out. Another one of the prelim fights that you should check out is between Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Joaquin Buckley. Now, this should be a very explosive fight. Joaquin Buckley has one of the best all-time KOs in mixed martial arts history. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up a fight between Joaquin Buckley and Impa Kasanganay. He basically knocked him out standing up from a kick to the face while Impa Kasanganay was holding his other foot. It's definitely spectacular. It's like a movie scene knockout. So if you haven't seen it, I advise you to go look it up right now. Like literally, pause this video, go search out that video, and then come back to it because it's amazing. Joaquin Buckley, since that time, has definitely gotten stronger and stronger. He's rounded out his game. He was previously just mainly like a knockout artist. He still has his knockout power, but we've seen over the last year or so how he's really rounded out his game and being able to stop takedowns and go full 3 rounds. So it's the reason why he is favored in this fight. I was going back and forth with this one, but I'm actually going to take Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the upset. Right now, Thompson is plus 190 in terms of his odds of winning the fight. So he is the underdog in the fight. The only reason why I think Wonderboy is going to get the win is because his karate style is really heavily based on distance. And Joaquin Buckley is very explosive. I think with Wonderboy's ability to keep the distance and keep Joaquin from catching him, he'll be able to land some strikes from distance, keep him at bay, and control all 3 rounds. Well, maybe not all 3 rounds, but at least 2 of the 3 rounds and pull off a decision victory. Now, if Joaquin Buckley catches him with a clean shot, yes, he could go down, but Wonder Boy is so tough. He pretty much never gets knocked out. So I think that's going to lend itself to Wonder Boy winning the fight, and I'm taking Wonder Boy in the upset. Now, as far as 3 of the fights on the main card for UFC 307. The first one I'm going to mention is Kayla Harrison against Ketlin Vieira. Now, Kayla Harrison, for those that don't know, was in a previous organization before joining the UFC, I believe, last year. Kayla Harrison is probably the most muscular woman MMA fighter that you've ever seen. And they said she's been tested a bunch of times, so she's supposed to be clean, but she's just very, very muscular. If you see her, you know she's like very recognizable. She was a world-class wrestler before getting into MMA, and it's part of the reason why she's been very dominant in her MMA career. I think that in this fight, it's going to be more of the same. It's probably why she's a huge favorite. She's actually minus 1150, which means that you would have to bet $1,150 just to win $100 on this fight if you bet it on Kayla Harrison. But I still think that it'll be an interesting fight. Ketlin Vieira is a very good striker, and so Kayla will get tested. Like, she's going to have to eat some shots in order to get in to her takedowns, but I do think ultimately she will be able to get a takedown and control her and end up winning the fight. The other fight on the main card I'm going to talk about is the co-main event. That is between Raquel Pennington and Juliana Pena. Now, Raquel Pennington is the wife of Tisha Pennington that I mentioned in the prelims. Raquel Pennington is the current 135 belt holder. Now, what some people don't know, Juliana Pena was the 135 belt holder. She was supposed to do a rematch against Amanda Nunes, but then she got hurt, and then Amanda Nunes took a fight against someone else, and that was her last fight before she retired. So Juliana Pena never got a chance to fight her again. She was the champ, and I actually think that she's going to get her belt back. Raquel Pennington is favored. Juliana Pena right now is plus 145 odds, but I think she'll get the win. Obviously, we haven't seen her in over a year now, so she could be rusty, and that could play a factor in why she's not favored to win this fight. But I think at their peaks, Juliana Pena actually has more well-rounded skills. Her and Raquel Pennington were actually on the same season of The Ultimate Fighter together. For those that don't know, The Ultimate Fighter is a TV show, kind of like a reality TV show where people are trying to get into the UFC, and they have to fight their way to the end to then get a chance to earn a contract. That season that they were on, Juliana Pena actually won that season. Raquel Pennington went out in the semifinals, I believe. So they were in the same season. They were on the same team, so they never fought each other. But I think Juliana Pena showed that she had the better, well-rounded skills. Now, I do think that Raquel Pennington has gotten a lot better since those days, but I'm still going to lean towards Pena getting the win. I feel like she's a little bit stronger, and that will carry her to a victory and reclaiming her belt. Now, the last fight I'm going to mention for UFC 307 is the main event. That is between Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree. Now, this should be a very explosive fight. Alex Pereira has basically been fighting every other month. He said that after he suffered a knee injury like a couple years ago, he's basically been trying to fight as much as possible because he wants to stay busy and stay active, and he's definitely been doing that. I really like Khalil Roundtree. He's actually one of my favorite fighters. Khalil Roundtree actually started training in MMA as a way just to get in shape. He used to be like over 300 pounds, and then he went to a gym, started training just as a means to get in shape, and in the process learned a lot of skill and technique and then really dedicated himself to it. He ended up getting a spot in another season of The Ultimate Fighter. He didn't win his season, but he definitely got better. Then he came into the UFC, got a couple early wins, Then he had some losses. Then he eventually actually moved to Thailand for a year and learned Muay Thai from actual Thai fighters, and then came back and continued his UFC career. So I really just like the personality and determination of Khalil Roundtree, where he started from and where he is today, to now be having a chance to get the belt is really amazing. In a way, I'll be kind of rooting for him, but from a prediction and betting standpoint, I just can't go against Alex Pereira at this point. He's looked dominant in essentially all his fights since he had his loss to Israel Adesanya. So until somebody can show me that they can beat him, I still got to go with Pereira. Right now, he is minus 500 favorite, so $500 to win $100, which makes sense, like I said. Now, yes, it's possible that he could get caught by Roundtree, but I think because Roundtree's style of fighting fits perfectly into Alex Pereira's style of fighting, it's going to be an easy match for Pereira, and I think he's going to pull off the win. But I wouldn't be surprised if this fight has a lot of explosive hits, ones that get you out of your seat, and should be definitely an exciting fight. So that's it for UFC 307. Now we got to get into NFL Sunday, where I give you my picks. For those new to the channel, there are 3 sets of picks that I do. First, I start off with a pick 3, where I pick 3 games that could go either way, and I pick the winners, who I think are going to win in each of those 3 games. Then I go to my lock of the week, which is the game where I'm more so feel the most confident that one team is going to win. And then I go to my underdog pick of the week. Again, for my underdog pick of the week, the underdog has to be favored to lose by more than 3 points in order for them to count as my underdog. So let's get into it. So to start, for my pick 3 for NFL week number 5. Now, I noticed in the last 2 pick 3s, I inadvertently happened to have picked the same 3 teams. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you 3 different teams that I haven't picked in the last 2 weeks. So that also made it a little bit difficult, because some of the teams I picked previously I actually think are going to win again this week. But just to change it up, I made sure I picked 3 completely different teams for my pick 3. So to start, I'm going with the New England Patriots to beat the Miami Dolphins. Now, if you're not a Patriots fan and you're not a Dolphins fan, I wouldn't recommend trying to watch this game. It's probably going to be boring. I don't know what the actual scoring line on the game is, but whatever it is, it's probably going under. Both offenses have looked pretty putrid. I'm going with New England. They are actually 1-point underdogs last time I checked the line. They are at home against the Dolphins. I just feel like the Dolphins' offense hasn't seemed to click at all since Tua went out. And even though the Patriots' offense hasn't been great, I feel like they have more of a set identity. They have a more experienced quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, just in the sense that he's been starting from day 1 this year. And I feel like they're going to pull out a close win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I think New England's defense will be able to hold down Miami's offense, since they've already been struggling as is, and New England will pull off the win. Now, the next game that I'm picking in my pick 3 is the Houston Texans to beat the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Texans are at home. They are favored by 1 at this point. This game should be really good. Both teams are 3-1. The Bills are coming off a tough loss against Baltimore, which I think is actually going to make the Bills play better. But I think that overall, with Stephon Diggs going up against his old team, I think he's really going to want to show out and kind of show Buffalo what they've been missing. And I think he's also going to have an advantage in the sense that he was just in that offense previous year. So he'll be able to help DeMeco Ryans get that defense together in terms of the play calls, the checks and things of that nature. And I think it'll give them a slight edge. And I think the Texans will be able to pull off a win at home against the Buffalo Bills. Now, the last matchup in my pick 3, I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Arizona Cardinals. The 49ers are at home. They are favored to win by 7. I don't know if they're going to cover the spread. In theory, they should. The Cardinals haven't looked great recently. But the 49ers haven't looked like themselves either. They still do have injuries that they're getting over. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey still isn't playing yet, although I think Mason has been running the ball well, so I don't think that's been a huge drop off. But nonetheless, not having your number one offensive weapon is a big deal. But I do think the 49ers will get it together and pull off the win. I know Fred Warner got hurt in the last game. I haven't checked the injury report to see if he's going to play or not. But even if he doesn't play, I still feel like the 49ers have enough on defense to kind of keep Kyler Murray in place and be able to get away with the win. So now moving on from the pick three, we got to get into my lock of the week. Now this week's lock of the week is the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Seattle Seahawks are at home against the New York Giants. They are favored to win by 7 points. Now I'm just taking the Seahawks straight up, but I actually feel confident that they'll still be able to cover the spread. I just feel like Seattle, even though they lost their last game against Detroit, their offense showed that they've really clicked into gear. Geno Smith has been playing really well. And even though the Giants' defense has looked formidable, I do think that Seattle will be able to do enough to score enough. And since the Giants' defense has been terrible, I think that even if the Seahawks aren't as explosive as they were last week, it still will be enough to cover the amount of points that they'll allow from the Giants. So my lock of the week is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, lastly, for my picks, we're going to go into the underdog pick of the week. Now, again, remember, my underdog pick of the week has to be a team that's favored to lose by more than 3 points. This one was really tough because most of the spreads this week are really small, and the ones that are over 3 points, I didn't really like them. So this one is kind of a long shot in a sense, but I'm going with the Carolina Panthers to get the upset against the Chicago Bears. Now the Bears are at home. The Bears are favored to win by 4 points, but I had to pick somebody, so I'm going with the Panthers. I think with Dalton at the helm, they've been able to get enough going offensively to where they should be able to score on the Bears, even though the Bears do have a good defense. I don't really like what I'm seeing from the Bears offense, and so that's what I think is going to make the game close. And if the game is close, I'm going with the more experienced quarterback, and I think that the Panthers will be able to pull off an upset against the Chicago Bears. So that's it for this week. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Also, please share the video with as many people as possible, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you. Peace.